Welcome to another episode of Guiding Light. I'm Jenna Carson.
I'm Sarah Larson.
We are so excited to be joined today by Donna Milakovic. Donna, welcome.
Thanks. It's good to be here. I'm excited to be here.
Donna is a woman of many talents. She has a background in English literature and Korean from BYU and an MBA from UVU. And she has dedicated her career to empowering others through education, nonprofit work, and community building. She currently serves as an adjunct professor at Eastern Tennessee State University, the director of strategic initiatives at USF, and is an executive coach with Avalon Partners. As a certified Gallup Strengths coach, she helps individuals and organizations unlock their true potential. But Donna's greatest accomplishments go beyond her impressive resume and include choosing to follow Jesus, being married for 26 years and raising three incredible children, running 9 half marathons, and writing 9 novels. She attributes her belief that anything is possible to growing up next to Disney World. Thanks again, Donna, for being here today.
Yes, thank you.
You are a woman of much experience, many gifts, and I love that you've run 9 half marathons and written 9 novels. There's something about the number nine going on. What has led you to pursue the different professional careers that you've pursued in your life?
I have an exaggerated need for variety in my life, clearly. I just genuinely, I considered myself when I was younger an opportunist. And part of that did come from just believing that I could do anything. And so when an opportunity came, I wanted to try a lot of different things. And it wasn't until probably in my 30s that I started actually looking back at my career and how often I had changed jobs and started realizing what the theme of my career was, and that is community building. And so I do like to start new things. And it was about that time that I figured out my why, which is to build cool things with cool people. And that is the thread through all of the opportunities. I guess I didn't take all of the opportunities, but I took the opportunities where something new and exciting was happening. And the team that I got to work with was really innovative and fun. And so then I just started intentionally looking for those opportunities. And that's how I landed teaching and working on strategic initiatives and things like that I'm doing now. It sounds like a lot when you read it out there, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like you've really been pursuing all those opportunities that have come your way. And I love that you mentioned your love of variety and your need for variety. It wasn't until recently that I learned variety is actually a core life value for some people, including myself. It's one of my top two core values. And I didn't know that until I worked with someone who does coaching and who understands and helps you understand what your core values are. And so I bet this episode will be very validating for everyone who has a core value of variety.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of things. Yes. And I like to attribute it to, I'm a strengths coach. I'm a certified strengths coach. And so it was just even later in my life, just a few years ago, about 7 years ago, that I really was able to put the strength of being an activator to that idea of variety, right? So I knew I needed a lot of variety in my life. I looked for it. I've never really lived anywhere a long time either. I like to move around a lot. We moved twice in the last year. But my husband likes to stay still. So we did spend 9 years somewhere, and I thought I was going to go crazy. I started so many new things. That's when I ran 9 half marathons and wrote seven of my novels, is because I needed a new project all the time. Um, but I learned, like, I came to realize that understanding my strengths, that activator is kind of that driver underneath that need for variety, is just that I like the newness of things.
For those of
Yeah.
us who are not familiar with Gallup strengths, can you tell us what those strengths are and what they mean?
Yeah. Gallup comes from the Clifton Strength Finder. Gallup purchased it, and they're a large research firm. And it is really kind of like a personality test. There are 34 talents or themes that people take an assessment and then they realize, they list all 34 in the order that are most prominent for you. And it's really based on a lot of neurological research. So it's got neuroscience and personality. It's very research based, which is what I like about it. Working at a university, I love to know that what I'm working with is research based. And there are 34 strengths, so I'm not going to name all of them, but I will tell you what my top five are. And that is woo, or winning others over, is my number one strength. So that's where the community building comes from. And you might have, I also have communication. That's where one of my writing strengths come from. Strategic, which is in the name of my job title, and activator, which is another one. And then positivity are my top five. But there, you might have something like empathy, where you just always have your radar on for emotions in the room and you're not sure why. Really, what the Gallup strengths measure are our intuitive reactions, how we process information and how we interact with other people. So it's really about how people affect us and we affect them, and how information gets processed in our brain and through our perspective, which makes our lens unique, right? Our lenses are not all the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. And so as you're, looking at these strengths of others and then helping them, like I guess my question is, what do you do once you find these strengths? Like if you find that you have a certain your like top five strengths, like what do you do with that? How do you use that information?
Yes. So the first time I learned about it, I didn't do much with it. I was like, that's nice. And I put the book down like most people do, right? But as I studied it and kind of got more involved, I realized that there really are kind of three phases of understanding our strengths. And the first one is just to name what it is, like understanding what the names are, and kind of being able to say, how does my woo affect my life, right? Like I can name what it is. It's winning others over. It's my need to build communities. It's my need to be around people, that I just naturally get my energy around other people. And you might say that's an extrovert, but there are lots of extroverts who aren't necessarily as worried about influencing people as I am. So that's my woo coming through. I want to win them over. And that's part of why I do very purpose-driven work, because I want to win them over to my cause, to higher education, to chambers of commerce, wherever I've worked. Um, and so that's naming it. I get to name and figure out what it is. And then the next thing you do with it is kind of claim it. Like, where is it showing up in my life? What's it driving me to do? So my positivity is really around people. And that was a big epiphany for me for years ago, because I'm like, I'm not always a positive person. I can complain with the best of us, right? I don't always see a silver lining, but I did find that it's a relationship building theme. And so I started thinking about the people in my life, and I am one who gives people the benefit of the doubt. I will always try to see their behavior in the best light. And as you can see, like claiming that in my life, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that in this relationship. I can see where that happened in my family. I can see where that happened in this business, or this job related situation. And again, when you claim it, you can also sometimes see it by the downfall. There are times when that has burned me. And even something like empathy, you can see it because, yes, you read the room really well and you understand people and you kind of feel others' emotions pretty natively, pretty intuitively. And that can be really overwhelming. And so there's a balcony and a basement when we start to claim it. And then finally, you intentionalize it. You aim it at something important. And so when I was doing a job search for my latest job, I aimed all of my strengths at that. I wanted something where I could interact with people and build communities, where I could have a positive atmosphere, and work with people I could trust, who also wanted to be collaborative, and where I could use my strategic skills. And so that's how I use my strengths. That's how I train coaches, executives to use their strengths. When you have empathy, use it intentionally. Don't just be affected by it, but actually aim it at the things you want to change.
Yeah, I love that. And use the word purpose. I want to get into that a little bit. So how does knowing these strengths help you like maybe find your purpose, live in that purpose, or what's that process look like of finding your purpose in a career or in life?
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be different for everyone, right? We're all going to stumble across our purpose. But what I will say is, um, you find what you're looking for.
Mm.
So if you're looking for the meaning behind what drives you, then you'll find it. If you're looking for what motivates you, makes you happy, then you'll find it. And um, a lot of times, I just love coaching executives who I just, and a lot of the coaching I've done is through our women's leadership program. And so a lot of women who are like, I never knew why this was so important to me until I learned that, yes, but community building is important to me. It is my number one strength that I like to win people over and create communities where people are working toward something. Um, so where did I find my purpose? Usually through hardship.
Mm.
When it looks like we aren't going to be able to do something, or we get rocked to our core and we have to choose what's most important. It can be found through coaching. I've had life coaches and other coaches professionally who've helped me through those things. Um, but I would say, one, you have to go looking for it. And two, you have to be prepared for paying attention when something hard happens to what you feel is most important. And so that's really where I found a lot of my purpose. And I've found that coming back to service for me, I love to feed people. I don't love to do all kinds of service. I'm not into gardening. I'm not going to go weed somebody's yard, but people have done that for me, and I appreciate it. But I've found that I love to feed people. I love to teach. I teach as a service. I love to talk um, about my belief in Jesus Christ and the gospel, and so I found purpose in that. Um, and I think my I'm still searching for my purpose. I'm still searching for what it will be next year or next month, but I'm also living in it in the moment.
If we have listeners who are really struggling to find purpose and maybe feeling discouraged, what advice would you give them right now?
Try something new. Just try something. Start somewhere because for some people, it's going to be a really intellectual exercise. They're going to want to think about their situation, what's most important to you. Um, and I love the writings of Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek's a organizational behavioral scientist, and he talks about starting with your why. And there's really good, like easy access information about how to start with your why, and that can help you drive to purpose. And one of the things that he talks about, especially finding your why in hard times, because there are some really hard times happening everywhere. Like we have a lot going on right now in the world and in our country especially. But I would say try something new. And if the something new is seeking your purpose, um, the question of why you do what you do, why you care about what you care about, and why you believe what you believe are good questions. Not why things happen to you, why you happen, why you do things, why you show up. And one of the things that Simon Sinek teaches is that you can sit down with your friends and your closest people, someone you trust who isn't a spouse or a child or someone like super close, but like a friend who gets to choose you, who's outside your family and gets to choose to spend time with you. Sit down with a best friend and say, why are we friends? What is it that I do in this relationship? Why are we friends? And you'll learn. You'll learn about what you bring and what you contribute in that relationship. And that's a good thread to pull on if you're looking for your purpose. And if things are hard and you're feeling alone, um, try something new. Get out and do something different than you're doing right now. And and whatever it is that you choose to do, that's going to be the first thread of you finding purpose.
Mm. Love that. That's so actionable. It's interesting because I feel like Jenna and I have had that conversation like not too long ago, probably a couple months ago. We're like just kind of going through like how we became friends and like our why with our friendship, and we're just like, oh, this is so nice, and I like love this about you, and I love this about you. It's just like such a great moment. But I think it is interesting to like learn about yourself through the eyes of someone close to you and someone like you said that chooses you because yeah, they don't have to be in your life, but they choose to, and knowing why they do, I think that is an amazing way to find a strength. I love that.
When we're struggling, it's so hard for us to have a clear picture of ourselves. The mirror doesn't work. Family is hard sometimes. But the people that stick by you, the people that know who you are, will tell you things like, you always show up for me, right? What is it I do in this relationship? You always show up. You always have good advice. You always, right? And then I can take that and go, oh, I love showing up for people I care about. I love like having good advice. Maybe that's a place I can take some new action.
Love that. What would a typical coaching session with you look like when helping, the executives and the women that you help with, that you help?
Yeah. So I'm gonna give all away my trade secrets. It's not that it's not that hard. It probably sounds like a lot of meetings with anybody who's seeking information, right? So this is really people looking to better themselves and develop. And so the first question usually is, what do you want to get out of this? What are you looking for? Um, and what do you need to do that? And then the next one is, how is this showing up in your life? We'll talk about different strengths, empathy, developer, things like that. Those are a couple of maybe it's a communication strength. And a lot of times that's all it takes for someone to open up and go, well, what I really want out of this is I want to learn more about myself. And so then we'll take, luckily we have a little outline and we take it, but we could do anything around, you know, a lot of times I say, what was easy for you in the last week? What came easily? What energized you? What were you most enthusiastic about? And those are questions anyone can ask themselves, right? If I'm looking at my life, what came easy? What energized me? What was I enthusiastic about? And then you start looking at why that is. Why was it so much fun to, have guests over and feed them dinner, right? Because I love being around people, because I love feeding people. It's part of service. Um, and then the other question on the other side of that I often ask is, what was hard? What was stubborn? What were you stubborn about and you just didn't want to do? What have you been avoiding this week? Right? What is on your weekly, what in the last 7 days were you just avoiding and resisting and not wanting to be a part of or do? Now, sometimes that's something that needs to go out of your life, and sometimes that's something that needs to come into your life. So it depends on why you're resisting it. But a lot of times the things that, make us stubborn can be some of the downsides of those very strengths. And so we learn a lot about ourselves when we look at what we're resisting in our life.
Mm, I love that. As you were, talking about those questions, I was thinking to myself, like, whoa, have I been resisting? Anything administrative for me is like, because I feel like it slows the process down. Like having to slow down to do tiny, like little things, like I avoid. And so I'm like, oh, does that mean I don't have to do them? Or does that mean I need to learn more and do it better? But it's interesting. So that's something I've been working on is like slowing down and making the like minute little things that I avoid like easy or fun to do, like with little rewards or treats or whatever, so that I don't miss out on the big things because the small things are so difficult.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that you probably don't want a job filled with paperwork, right?
No.
Because that administrative stuff, right, as we talk about, that administrative stuff is no fun. I don't like it either. I want a job filled with people.
Mm.
Because meeting with people, if I have a day full of meetings, I'm energized at the end of the day. If I have a day full of projects and emails and I have to It's all the stuff I'm avoiding in my job right now is that very stuff. It's the administrative, it's the email I need to send or the meeting I need to plan or, the PowerPoint I need to build. And I'm like, can I just talk to them about it? People need visuals. What?
Yeah.
Can we talk about the goal setting process
Mhm.
in your work and in finding passion in life?
Yeah. Um, I feel really strongly. I am not always great at achieving my goals. I have a best friend who will set a goal and she will just never, like, she will get it, she will achieve it or die. Like, she will achieve it. Um, and I am much more flexible with my goals, but I have found that when we are rudderless in life, when we feel like we don't have a direction, a lot of times it's because we haven't set a destination. And so I think of my goals quite often as a destination. And sometimes that destination is the end of the day. What do I want to get done by the end of the day? And sometimes it's the end of the month. And sometimes it's the end of a half marathon. And I am somebody who responds really well to a deadline because if I have this goal, when I wanted to motivate myself to run, I'm not a very disciplined person. I'm not very self-motivated. I'm people motivated. So first I had to set a very scary goal. I had to sign up for a half marathon, 13.1 miles. I had only ever run 5 miles ever in my life when I set that goal to run 13.1 miles. And I didn't even know what it looked like. Couldn't even imagine it. But I had a friend who was a coach, a triathlon coach, and she had run several marathons. And she said, we can do this. And so then I created a buddy, somebody to walk the goal with me and to help me keep track. And then I created a system that had daily goals, destinations for short increments through the 3 months or 4 months that I trained. Um, and I got to push towards that goal. Now, I completed it. Yeah, I did. And I was exhausted and I was excited and I was super proud of myself. And they gave me a medal at the end. The reason I ran half marathons is because they give you a medal. I love a race. They give you a medal at the end. Not all of my goals come with a medal. And so I translated that into a lot of other parts of my life where if you're doing strategic planning or project management or anything, you have to set goals and then you have to break your big goals into smaller goals. And so um, I like to think of them as a destination for the project or a destination for me. Um, and I think if we really want to find our purpose, we have to be going somewhere in our life with, different aspects of our life. Um, and so that's where I find a lot of inspiration. And I actually, a year and a half ago, um, started a program that was very goal oriented, but only one day at a time, right? So I very, very huge changes in my diet for health reasons. And that's a whole nother podcast because it's been an amazing transformation. But I will say a year and a half later, like let's say 1 year. So when I started it, couldn't imagine. And I love a goal when I start that I can't imagine, right?
Mhm.
I can just dream it just enough to think maybe it could happen. And then I make it and commit to it in some way. And then I break it into little pieces. And then that's what I did. So I committed to giving up all sugar and flour. I did it. And I lost 90 pounds, which I'm not yet at my goal, but I'm close. When I got to my 1 year mark, I ordered myself a medal and I got myself a race medal that
Awesome.
has that said 1 day at a time because after 365 days, I got there 1 day at a time. And I had my short goals and I wrote down every night what I was going to do the next day. And then I did it. And there were slow times and fast times and hard times and beautiful times. And there were funerals and weddings and travel and all kinds of things that happened in between. But when I reached that goal, I gave myself a medal and I love it. I hung it right up on my wall with my other half marathon medals. And I think we need some kind of reward when we reach a goal. And you know what? It's the striving that is our growth zone. The growth zone where the goal is the striving. Reaching the goal, I almost always turn around and set another one. I'm like, that was great. I reached it. I have my medal. Now it's time to train for the next race. It's time to, get up and set my next goal for next year. So, the achieving, whether you win or lose or fail, I've missed a lot of goals in my life. I've been trying to get published for 19 years. I've missed a lot of goals in my writing, but I've written 9 novels and I've taught writing to a lot of people. And I have a great network of people that I care about in the writing world. I've had a lot of fun. And someday I will publish because I'm not giving up on that goal. It is still a destination that I am working toward every day.
Donna, this is amazing. There's so many things we could unpack here. Thank you for your writing. You've written these novels. So you haven't self-published either? Or you have?
I haven't
Okay.
self-published.
Okay.
I could self-publish. I love to, it's not actually the publishing that I found out after years and years of this. When you talk about looking for your purpose and following your passion, I found that teaching was really my passion. I had to ask myself, why do you want to be a published author? One, I want people to read my story. I think that would be great, but it's not about me. I really just wanted to have enough credentials to teach other people about the joy of writing. And what I found was, yes, it would be fun to have a book tour, and yes, it would be fun to share my stories. But what I really wanted was the credibility of being an author so that I could go to these conferences that I was going to and actually teach. So instead, I took the things I was learning about communication and I created a workshop and I pitched them to the conferences and I started teaching. About 5 years into my journey, I started teaching writing and relationship building and business principles. And I found a lot of satisfaction. Do I still write? Absolutely, because I can't not write. I love it. It gives me so much joy. Do I share my writing with the people I care about? Absolutely. Am I still querying? Am I still putting my work out there? Absolutely. And there may come a day where I self-publish, and if that were my journey, if that's what was important to me to be published, then I would do it. Publishing is the destination, but the journey is way too much fun. I'm having so much fun in the journey, and what I really wanted was to be able to teach and interact and be with people and create communities. And that's what I do. I cater. This is me loving food. I cater for writer groups, writer retreats
Mm.
for a week. They get a bunch of writers together and I feed them. I share my work. I have 5 writers groups. At one point in the pandemic, I had 5 different writers groups. So I created communities around writing and I help people learn how to write and I teach. So it's been a lot of fun. And someday I'll get published and I'll have that credential. But in the meantime, I've just created a lot of experience, whether or not I have the author title or not.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And one other goal you shared that is just really blowing my mind is that you went off sugar and flour for a year. And like you said, that could be a whole episode itself. But I'm sure you know this, but there are studies that show that like an addiction to sugar is just as strong as an addiction to cocaine. Have you heard that?
I felt that.
Uh,
I didn't need to just hear that. I've
yeah.
lived it. I have
Um,
lived that.
yeah, and so I'm just really like fixated on this and want to have a whole episode with you on it. But quickly, can you tell us how you overcame that addiction? Because that's huge. Like, was it just sheer willpower? Was it cold turkey?
Oh,
You know,
absolutely
what?
not.
Yeah, okay.
It was absolutely not sheer willpower because no one has enough willpower to really get themselves out of that kind of addiction. You can work it for a while, but I didn't just give it up for a year. I gave it up forever. And so I still continue to not eat sugar and flour. And what I found was a really, really abundant, rich life of beautiful food that comes straight from the earth and isn't processed the way we process food these days. So the return for that sacrifice was immense. I have a bountiful diet and I love, love, love my food and it's beautiful and I love to feed people still. And I still make it fancy. And I do feed other people sugar and flour sometimes if they want it because they don't have the same problem with it that I do. But the interesting thing about sugar is, and food addiction, is that it is both a process and a substance addiction. So you are fighting the process addiction, which means you have all those triggers, sitting down in front of the TV, celebrating a birthday, family, social events, going out to a restaurant. You have all these triggers that make you want to eat the sugar, flour, whatever the food is. And then you have the actual substance where your body actually craves it. And it is, I find, um, that none is easier than some. I could never do it when I had some, when I was feeding it a little bit once a week, cheat days, or whatever the cheat days were. But I absolutely did not do it on my own. I found a program that was very supportive that included mental health work and internal family systems work for the emotional reasons that I eat. And I found a community. And I think that's probably the theme. You know me, I'm not going to do anything without other people. I put other people to anything that takes discipline in my life. I join a group, I join a class, I join a community, and I have a really rich community through the program that I committed to, and really it came from this. For me, was a very spiritual commitment, and that when when the dark nights come and it's hard to live differently and eat differently than the people in my household, in my family, in my neighborhood, in my church, when the dark days come, I remember that I have things to do in my life, and this is my health plan, and this is what I've committed to my God, and He's a higher power than any of those other triggers. And so I feel called to do this. And for me, that's a determination. But I know hundreds and hundreds of people who are every day struggling to break up with sugar and flour, and to, some days are good and some days are hard. And willpower, just, it would be nice if I were that kind of person, but I haven't met, in the hundreds of people I've met that are doing this, I haven't met one person that could do it on their own. So just like finding your passion, it's rarely something you just could find on a desert island. You have to have the feedback, you have to have the support, and you have to give the service. Part of what makes it me available to do this is that I'm guiding other people. I'm leading a group of people right now who are doing a 90-day challenge. And so being that leader among this community um, reinforces for me every day the choices I'm making.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking for themes, and what I hear is like starting with a why,
Mhm,
knowing and recognizing your strengths. And the flip side of that, like the two sides of the coin, is your strengths and the weaknesses or things that come from that strengths, those strengths that might challenge you.
mhm.
And then community, involving other people, accountability, and not doing it alone. And then also like serving and leading others. So that I see like all of these patterns and how effective they've been for you and how you've been able to do such incredible things with those, I guess, values and principles that you have. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a great synthesis of all of those different stories, right? The themes are definitely support. So I say community a lot. With something like addiction, it's really support. It's people that are going to be there to support you. Anything that has to be done repetitively over a long period of time that's going to have highs and lows, that support's important. For like running and work and writing, I think teamwork is kind of that community. I like to be doing that with other people as peers, not so much support, although there's some support in there too. But when you're trying to make big changes, you have to have that support in place, whatever that is for you. And so I I'm somebody who really likes change, as we started with. So that newness is important to me. But yeah, absolutely, Sarah. I think all of those things, right? That's how you find your passion. At least that's been my path. Try something new. Know, seek your why. Um, get a team involved, whoever that may be, at least a buddy, if not more. Um, and strive. Just keep going. Just keep going. Perfectionism won't get you where you want to be. You just have to keep going because there will be setbacks, and I accept those.
Donna, for some reason, this question has come to my mind twice during our conversation, so I feel like I want to ask it, even though we didn't talk about this at all. What is the relationship between following your dreams and passions and social media for you? I think the reason I'm thinking about this is I think social media in general is actually holding a lot of us back. And so I don't know why I just feel guided to ask you to speak about social media to us. So,
Yeah, social media. Um, Social media has its pros and cons as well, right? For me, I don't build a lot of communities on social media. I don't spend a lot of my life on social media. And part of the reason is the psychology of watching other people live their dreams can inspire us, but it can also make us lazy because we get kind of the thrill of seeing, following somebody who's doing these big things. And then we don't go out and strive for that in our own lives because we get there's genuinely a neurological excitement that comes that can be just from watching. And some people, like some of us, can just sit in that for a long time. Now, can I scroll social media? Absolutely. I can waste time on a Saturday afternoon scrolling social media. Um, I never come out of it very uplifted, right? So I think we've heard more and more about the anxiety and depression and loneliness that comes from spending so much of our time with social media uh, because there's a comparison. And we weren't meant to compare our life to other people's lives. And in writing, I found this very, very important, this very strong truth. It is not fair to compare your rough draft to somebody else's finished novel, somebody else's published book that's been through editors and and been polished up and served out is not going to be in the same condition as your novel. So when you compare them, you're going to feel inadequate. You're going to feel like you're not enough. And I find that with social media, people put their very best selves out there, or they put their most extreme or most dramatic selves out there, or they're going to these amazing places, which are, I dream of. And I can't compare my rough draft idea or um, my day at work, my day at work just doing my stuff to somebody else's trip to Mexico and feel like I've had a great day. But if I don't compare that moment in time from them with my day, I can find all the beauty in my day. So, what I look for on social media is um, being part of selected communities. So, I choose my social media carefully. I keep in touch through things like Marco Polo, which is its own form of social connection. I keep in touch with family and friends through Marco Polo. I will go on Facebook looking for gratitude, uplifting things. Like most things, I know what I'm looking for. And does that mean that I always find it? No. Sometimes I find really obnoxious stories or really depressing news. But I don't go to social media looking for everything. I go looking to see my people and to connect with my people and to look for gratitude and uplifting things. So the things I follow are things I care about. I took up crochet in December, so now I have some crochet, like social media is feeding me crochet patterns. So I find that sometimes. So there's definitely good things about social media, but if we don't keep it reined in carefully and we're not intentional. Almost anything in life, if you're not intentional about it, it can become overwhelming and can have negative effects in your life. And for me, social media is very much one that can um, create this not enough in my life feeling that I'm not enough, that my life is not enough, that my family's not beautiful enough, smart enough, happy enough, accomplished enough, traveling enough, learning enough. And the truth is, we are all of those wonderful things for our situation. And I can be really inspired by people. Um, but I prefer to get my inspiration in person when I
Yeah,
can.
yeah, I love that. I think that's a big motivation for us being here in this space on having a podcast of guiding light and putting light into the world and in the space of social media, or media in general. And so, anyone listening out there that wants to be intentional about the media that's in their lives, please, like, share, and subscribe this episode so that you can have that light in your life in such a dark space sometimes. So awesome. Yeah, I love that. And
Yeah,
yeah, that's a responsibility I feel as someone with a social media presence is to always be putting light into social media and not taking away from that light.
absolutely. I have podcasts that really inspire me that I learn so much from. And you guys are guiding lights in my life. And I've just so enjoyed, I feel so lucky that I got to meet you in person first and then follow all the things that you're doing. And that's a good pattern for me. But I know that, you know, lots of people are more savvy with social media and they find, but if it's a problem in your life, then limit it and be intentional about it.
Yeah, that intentionality can totally transform our lives. And I really appreciate how you live your life with intentionality. We were talking about your inspiration in your life, you talked about God and you have had an encounter with Jesus and have chosen to follow Jesus. And we're very much, we try to be inclusive of all different religious backgrounds on this episode. So I'm wondering if you can share with us your relationship with Jesus, with your higher power, and what that relationship has done for your life.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel that very much, this ability to just love people wherever they are and whatever they believe in. I think no matter where you are, I genuinely believe that we are all children of God and that um, you know, I have studied a lot of world religions actually. Intentionally, when I was younger, I was seeking and searching, and I was looking for what I believed in and how God would show up in my life and how I would choose to follow Him. And I found a fullness. Um, I found a fullness in the teachings of Jesus Christ, in accepting people wherever they are, and just loving them. And so my relationship with the Savior, who I believe to be the Savior of the world and the Son of God, is that um, one of gratitude and seeking always to do what He would have me do. And so um, it's not always an easy path to follow in the footsteps of what Jesus teaches. And I'm learning all the time about how little I can actually do to save myself, that I am relying on Him and His love to um, to really become someone who's full of light and love and service. And I believe He set a perfect example for us. And I believe that He still speaks to us through the written word and through each other. And I genuinely believe that on this earth, He uses our hands to serve each other. And that's my responsibility, to go out and help other people who come into my path, seek those that He would have me seek out, and follow that inspiration wherever it may lead me. And so those are the important things I feel about just kind of being a disciple and a follower of the Son of God.
Thank you so much, Donna. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? We've been so richly blessed by hearing about your intentionality, your work in the world, your community building. What else is on your heart to share?
I just think for anyone who, I have young adults in my life. My children are now all young adults, and they're all looking for what they're going to do, what they care about the most, and how to find the passions in their life. And I just think sometimes we sell short the idea of trying. doing something, trying it, putting a little risk. We might fail, we might fall on our face, we might hate it. So with the trying also comes the ability to change our mind. Try something, learn from it, learn and grow, fall down, scrape your knee, stand up, try again. Um, so it's not just a one-time try. I think the um, striving has taken me to a lot of fun places in my life. And I hope that for my children, I hope they will continue to try to be, to grow and to learn. Um, and so if you are unhappy, try something different. If you are looking for change in your life, try something new. Um, and if you can, take other people along with you, because that's always makes the journey more fun.
Thank you so much, Donna.
You're welcome.
We echo that invitation to try something new. And we know that as you're intentional in even trying new things, that you will discover new things about you. And I think you'll be blessed in that effort. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Donna, thank you for your time and wisdom.
Thank you. It was so fun.
And as Sierra said earlier, if you like this content, please like it officially, subscribe, share it with your friends, share that light, disseminate that light. We look forward to being with you next time. I'm Jenna Carson,
I'm Sierra Larson.
and we hope you follow the peace.